What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Costa, and today we are breaking down the NBA playoffs as we inch closer to the start of the NBA Finals. We'll discuss Celtics Game 4 victory over the Miami Heat and whether they can be the first team in league history to erase a 3-0 series deficit, as well as LeBron James potentially playing his last game of professional basketball and so much more. But first, before we do all that, I'd like to welcome back a special guest of the show. He is a diehard Celtics fan and is the mastermind behind the popular Instagram page at Celtics Everything. So without further ado, please welcome back to DTW, Ryan Steiner. Ryan, glad to have you with us.
So, I mean, I can hear my applause from the back. It's okay.
Yeah.
No, but happy to be here, man. Excited to get this discussion started. I got a lot on my mind about the Celtics series, so I'm
Yeah.
excited.
I mean, I'll tell you, if I was doing this at school, I actually have an applause button on my soundboard, but I'm kind of working with kind of a makeshift setup here. The reason, people would know this, if based on when this is getting released, but this was it took me a couple minutes to get you on because I had to go run over to my friend's house to get a cable, because my thing broke. So I was like, oh my God. So, kind of just, doing like a makeshift kind of, what's the name of it? Just shotgun setup right now. So kind of just making the best of it.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's
But
that's the unfortunate, but we'll make
yeah,
it work.
but hey, man, we're making the best of it. And listen, I think that right now, a lot of us Celtics fans, we're trying to make the best of this situation right now going on in this Eastern Conference Finals. Because to start things off, man, it's been a rough past 3 games coming into last night. Just the way Jimmy Butler and this Heat team have absolutely pulverized the Celtics. It's pretty demoralizing.
Yeah, I mean, I saw in person game two. I was there. It was, it was just tough to watch. No, there was no communication on defense. Players just weren't reading tendencies. I mean, the switching, there's no help, no timeout calls. I mean, we blew in game two. We blew a 10-point lead maybe 3 times in the same game, and up at halftime, up at after the third, in the middle of the second quarter, and up and after the third quarter, almost 10 too. The game one and two were two winnable games for them. And it was good to see them get on the board at least. And I do think there's a little bit of hope left here, just given the circumstances of the entire series. But I mean, I think there's still a lot that just, it only takes one more off night from one of those guys for us to be, eliminated. So.
Yeah. No, you are right with that. I mean, we were able to avoid the sweep. I mean, being down 3-0 in NBA playoff history, 60% of the teams that go down 3-0 go out in game 4 in a sweep. So, if you want to talk about, positives in the series, I mean, I guess you could say that is that we're on the other side of it. We can try to, continue to have the odds in our favor, but it's going to be a tough road ahead. I mean, there has been no team in NBA history that has come back from a 3-0 series deficit. I believe all teams are 150-0 when they go up 3-0 in a series. So we got our work cut out for us. But being this is Boston, we've given up some 3-0 leads in on our own, whether that be 2010 against the Philadelphia Flyers or back in 2004 coming back from being down 3-0 against the New York Yankees. So we do know it is possible for it to happen, both in the good and the bad. And Ryan, you actually said after this game 4 that you think that this Celtics team does have the ability to come back and actually win this series. I want to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, so I definitely think so. I mean, I think obviously you got to win 4 games to win the series, so there's always a chance. Before game 4, I was talking with my friends, my coworkers, and I said you needed to come into Miami and you needed to make a statement. You needed to blow out. It was kind of a blowout. I got there in the end. It was okay. It was a decent win. It was a win where we can say the Celtics won that game, and it wasn't like a controversial win-loss. So it maybe not a blowout, but still a pretty solid win. I think the Heat next game are going to ramp up the pressure. I think they're going to try to close that thing out in 5. And I think the Celtics are going to need to play their best basketball and squeeze out a tough game. I think it's going to be the one where we need to win a close game. And then if you win another game here, like Miami, the media is going to be all over the place. Stephen A. is going to hop on. He's going to be like, what's happened to the Heat? Are they actually going to make it? Everyone's going to start questioning. Maybe you catch the Heat kind of with their guard down, not knowing really what to do in game 6. And I just don't believe we'll lose to anybody but LeBron James in a game 7 in Boston ever. So And I also wanted to state, another reason I've been holding out hope. I remember, I think it was the last year of Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. If you remember that series, it was the Knicks. It was a 2 seed. We went down 3-0. We won game 4, went into New York. They dressed for the funeral, they called it. They all dressed in all black suits and stuff and showed up. And then we stole game 5, made it 3-2. And then in game 6, we got down like 26 points. And then the Celtics had a 20-0 run and lost that game by like 8 points. Like that was another team, like ended their careers, just fighting for their lives, and still, 8 points short of a game 7. I think I've seen it with my own eyes. It's very possible. That team was 3 threes away from that. So, I especially with it being a 2-8 matchup in our favor this time, I don't think it's out of the realm.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of other factors in this series too that are different than a lot of other teams going up 3-0, mainly the fact that the Celtics in this instance are the 2 seed and they aren't the ones up 3-0. It's the Miami Heat that have the advantage in the series, and they are the last seed, the 8th seed, having to play into just to make it to qualify. So there is kind of that difference to where you could say, like, all right, is the number 2 seed and for a while the best team in the NBA in the Eastern Conference finally going to show what they're worth? I mean, at one point they were the best team in basketball for, I'd say a good 3 months of the season. And last night they looked like the defending Eastern Conference champions. So I don't know whether that's going to carry on going forward, but it's definitely a good sign to see. Jason Tatum finally stepped up, looked pretty solid, had 33 points, 11 boards, 7 assists. I think Jaylen Brown had like 17, but from what I saw too, Al Horford was finally able to get the shooting going, because he was wretched in these past couple games. He could not hit water on a beach. It was bad. And to finally get him going too was really big for us. So I don't know. This Celtics team, for whatever reason, and this has been a case for the Celtics for a long time, and I've mentioned it on this show plenty of times, when their backs are against the wall, they play better. And they don't like to close out a series. When they're up 2-0, they'll, let a team come back on you. You saw it in the Philly series where they went down 3-2, and then they played their best basketball towards the end of game 6 and into game 7. So it wouldn't surprise me for Boston to come out in game 5 and really play stellar. It's just gonna be a question as to whether Jimmy Butler is going to show us what he's been doing this entire playoffs, because he demoralized the Bucks. He took down the Knicks. And I mean, if you remember that look he gave to that look he had on TV when he was injured and couldn't play, and the Heat had just lost, in that moment, the series was over. So if Jimmy Butler is able to will this team again and just get them over the hump, then yeah, we're going to be toast. But there's something about this Celtics team. When their backs are against the wall, they like to step up the game.
And I think I'm actually going to this is going to sound a little crazy. I'm going to give a little bit of credit to Joe Mazzulla last game too.
Okay.
I think he made some interesting adjustments. I think he finally called some nice timeouts to stop some momentum. I think that like the entire like attack on offense wasn't just really settling for threes. You did have to break the zone a little bit and open up the lanes. But the Celtics kept going to the basket. Like towards the end when it got up big, they just kept attacking the rim, and it was and one after and one. Like it was almost like the mentality was a little bit different. Maybe that was due to some of the leaders, but I will say when we needed it, you're down 8, down 7 in that first quarter. Al Horford hit those shots, and then same thing in the third quarter, trying to maintain that lead. Grant Williams hit those shots. So having the right guys in at the right times. So I gave a little credit for him. I like how he kind of just said, hey, this is the last game. Might as well play every card we got. And I think it worked out well. And credit to Al Horford and Grant Williams, I would say, for last game. Like I said, those 2 stretches where they had a couple threes in a row. I know Al's was in the second quarter, and he had a nice little hook shot in that run. And then Grant hitting those threes down the stretch and keeping his mouth closed this time.
Yeah.
Really did help. I think those were really 2 important stretches. And then you get the star power, and Tatum just takes over.
Yeah, and that's been a question so far as to when Tatum decides to take over. Because again, we saw it towards the end of game 6, and in game 7 against the Philly series, he drops 51 points. So he has it in him, but it's at least throughout this playoffs, it's been very up and down. And I'll give him some flack again for last playoffs. If that shoulder injury was as bad as a lot of people are saying it was, then you got to give him some flack for that and just respect what happened there. But this series, I don't know what's been going on with him. So, the 33 points is a good sign. But if you want to pull off a miracle and join the 2004 Red Sox as one of his historic Boston teams to overcome this deficit, it's got to continue.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think Tatum, with the shoulder injury last year, I think I saw a video before this podcast started of him rolling his eyes on the bench after game 3 or final moments of game 3. I think he came out with like I said, he came out with a different mentality. And I noticed that a lot of his shots were very quick. Like, he didn't really take too much time to dribble and think. A lot of those, like, I remember that move he had on he dipped his shoulder into Martin or Vincent and just shot it. Same with the threes, just catch and shoot. He didn't try to do too much. And I think when he's playing that way, the Celtics are really unbeatable because then it just opens up shots for everybody else.
Yeah. So, right, if I got to get your prediction for Game 5, would you heavily favor the Celtics in this matchup, or do you think Miami comes in and closes it out?
I still think Miami, betting odds wise, Miami should be the favorite in the game. I stay by that because I believe that Miami's, even with the Celtics fighting for their lives, I still think they're going to have that oomph to try to knock them out. So I would say, everyone's going to think Miami's going to win this game. The Celtics need to pull out a close one. I think it's going to be a close one. I hope it's a close one. I hope we don't lay down. If we don't lay down, I just don't see a way where the Celtics win by 15 or 20. If we do, that's phenomenal. But I think we're going to have to scrape out a 2, 3, 4-point win at home.
Wow. All right. I like the prediction with you there, but we'll have to see how that goes tomorrow. So as we approach the finals, there are some, we'll talk about the Denver Nuggets and what their potential run could look like in a little bit, but there is some news that came out of the Western Conference Finals. So after the LA Lakers got swept by Jokic in Denver, reports are coming out that LeBron James may have played his last ever professional basketball game in the NBA. So in the post-game press conference, he said that, quote, he had a lot to think about regarding the game of basketball and, kind of floated the idea that he might be retiring. So, Right. Do you believe this, or do you think that he's just trying to gain some attention and stir the pot?
I think my honest answer is I think the NBA lost revenue on these finals and needs something to stir it up a bit.
Absolutely.
To be honest, because even on an NHL side too, like both conference finals are 3-0 over there. Yeah. And it's just like none of the conference finals have been really competitive. So I think like got to stir the pot with that series somehow. Like how could ESPN go that a LeBron headline? Yeah, but at the same time, I think. We don't know what's going on in his head. Maybe he's got these, long, like nagging injuries that he never really talks about because it's not an excuse for LeBron James. It never has been. So we have no idea, but I just cannot see him retiring without playing that 1 year with Bronny. The only possibility I think is like the people were comparing it to him to MJ, of course, where he takes the year off and then comes in fresh for one more run. I wouldn't. I'd be opposed to seeing that either. I mean, I definitely want to see that little duo. So I would hope that he would stay around.
Yeah, I just think that it's all kind of fluff at this point. I don't think that LeBron James is going to retire because I don't think that's how he wants to go out. I know that, he would like to go out a champion, but even if he doesn't get that and he goes down in like a 6, 7, even a 5-game series, he at least wants to get a victory. The guy doesn't want to get swept by big Nikola Jokic. That's not how anyone imagines that LeBron's legacy is going to end. And it's not going to be how it's going to end. Even if, that's just not how it's going to happen.
Because there's no chance.
Because the other big quote that he said too was that he fulfilled mostly everything he wanted to do in the NBA besides play with his son, Bronny James. And Bronny's going to go to USC next year. He's going to we'll see how he plays there. He's a 6'3" combo guard. So a lot of people are wondering how his draft stock will kind of work out based on LeBron's situation. So some people are saying that if Bronny gets drafted to a certain location and LeBron's contract is up, you might be getting yourself 2 Jameses in that deal. And if LeBron's going to a team, there's a chance he might recruit some of his cronies with him. So if you're to draft a guy like Bronny James, and develop him. And listen, he could be a solid player. We have no idea how he's going to work out. He's shown out he's a 5-star recruit, so he's got some talent. But there's a chance that you could get LeBron James and some potential superstars and, put together a quick super team and try to win a chip. So I don't know. Do you think that Bronny's draft stock could be impacted by that?
So I think it'd be impacted by a few things. I think this threat of LeBron retiring could be almost like a wake up call to Bronny as well. Maybe he's his father son moment where he really wants Bronny to earn his draft stock.
Okay.
So if he takes that gap year, Bronny has to earn his draft stock at USC. And I think it's a thing where LeBron knows that his son's going to get drafted just based on name value at some point. And if not, he'll get an undrafted look. But I think he wants to, kind of drill it and could possibly want to drill in his head that he needs to, can't just be my son. You just got to be your own guy. But I think it might be the opposite way I'm thinking. I'm thinking the team that drafts Bronny won't look for LeBron. It maybe is like a rebuilding team that may like sell Bronny, try to bring in the best player from the Lakers or something like that, another young piece. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, because listen, whatever team gets Bronny is going to get so much media hype behind it. It'll be something that somewhat rivals the early emergence of LeBron James, regardless if the talent is there or not. Just the name value and the reputation that has been built up over these past 20 years is going to speak for itself. So, I there's a lot more going into the draft pick of Bronny James than just the talent alone.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's weird. It's not like a LeVar Ball situation where he sold all his sons and he said, like, all right, like, you guys got to draft my boys, do all this. And, the longer we get into their careers, you got to give LeVar Ball some credit because, he got 2 of his sons in the NBA. I mean, he was able to sell them, and he has some damn good players that are in the NBA. And had LiAngelo not stolen a watch in China, you might have 3.
Probably would have been a solid role player. Yeah.
Yeah, he would have been at least on a bench somewhere.
Yeah, like a 3-and-D guy.
You're telling me you're telling me he couldn't have beat out Sam Hauser?
No, or like Joe Ingles, I'm thinking.
Yeah, or Joe Ingles. Like, he could have done something. He could have been coming off the bench somewhere. So you had the potential to have 3 sons in the NBA. You got to give him credit. And, it's a different situation. I mean, LeVar was he had somewhat of a prowess, but LeBron James, the recruiting that he's probably been able to do is incredible. So got to give him credit for that. And who knows what the situation with Bronny's going to look like. But as we transition back to the NBA, let's talk about the team that knocked the Lakers and LeBron out. The Denver Nuggets, who have had an incredible just regular season, playoffs, and at this point, it just looks like it's their year. I mean, Nikola Jokic, a lot of people are going to say that he got robbed of the MVP award this year. Listen, Joel Embiid, he was going to get one at some point. It just happened to be this year. But Nikola Jokic is solidifying himself as potentially the best player on the planet. He is phenomenal at what he does. And I mean, it's a shame that just now he's starting to get the recognition he deserves. And it's, he's being put on the global stage because of the NBA finals. But that's just the case of what happens when you play in Denver. No one's really going to pay too much attention to you. It's not LA. It's not Boston. It's not Miami where the lights are on you. You're in just lowly Colorado. So as a 2-time MVP, finally getting the chance to compete for a chip, it just looks like it's going to be their year. The finals begin on June 1st. Ryan, regardless of what happens in the East, do you think the Nuggets are just going to run away with this thing?
I mean, I think it's possible. I definitely do. I think the Celtics, I really do think it's the only chance to give them a good series. I think if the Celtics, roll through these 4, win that game 7, I think they're just going to be so like pumped from that. They might steal a game or 2, at least, I would say. But I think if they see the Heat, I just don't see how they can keep up because the Heat are beating us with the zone. I think Nikola Jokic at the high post picks apart the zone like you've never seen before. Yeah. Just too good of a passer. They're going to have to be forced to play man, and I don't think the second Bam sits on the bench, Cody Zeller's just toast. So, I mean, I'm excited for him to get this chance. I do like. I've been questioning this entire playoffs whether like are the Nuggets legit this year. It kind of felt like how people were comparing us to the the Raptors with Lowry and DeRozan, where it's like, are they
Yep.
ever going to get over the hump? Are they ever going to get over the hump?
That's
So
always been my fear as with this team is they just seem like a more talented Lowry and DeRozan.
absolutely, and I think seeing them get over the hump is good. I definitely think it's like, yeah, now it's shaping up to be the year because their series really haven't been close. I think the first round was what 5. I think they were up 3-0, and Minnesota stole game 4.
Yeah.
And I think what was round 2? I think it was 4-2 against the Suns. But that was the thing. I chose the Suns to win that series, and it really wasn't close. Those games there were blowouts,
No.
a lot of them. And then
What we thought was going to be the next super team of the NBA with, I mean, Devin Booker, KD, Chris Paul, and company. Like we thought that was going to be we thought that was going to be a surefire like NBA title run.
Absolutely. My prediction was Celtics Suns in the finals, and it was it just didn't happen, and they made him look easy, and then LeBron, and like LeBron going off for 40 points, and just they stayed connected. They fought. They didn't let the Lakers get away from him. They closed it out on the road. Like that's a really tough team to beat, especially when you sweep LeBron. That's hard to do. So give him a lot of credit.
Yeah, and listen, it's not just what Nikola Jokic is doing. I mean, listen, the guy's a freak in nature. What he's been able to do. I saw one guy on it was like on Twitter or something, and it would say like he's gonna like Nikola Jokic is the type of guy to like I think they said like run around like a walrus and then just huck up some like effort shot from like the 3-point arc and sink it. And he proceeded to do just that like the very next game. And it's like, how the hell is this guy like human? Like it's ridiculous. I saw like a background thing on him where I think like his dad like is like some 7 foot like 7'4" like giant, and like an NBA talent scout like just saw this guy and he said like, hey, do you have any sons? And he was like, yeah, this is my son Nikola, and it was just like that was it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a crazy story.
yeah, it's pretty crazy how that's all come together. But it's not just what Nikola Jokic is doing. I mean, Jamal Murray also playing out of his mind. I've been seeing him go off throughout these playoffs. But one guy that I really want to highlight too is Michael Porter Jr. This guy out of high school and even in college was being touted as the next like superstar guy. 6'10", can shoot, can drive. Everyone thought that he was going to be, one of the next big stars of the NBA. And then tragically, he got just, a really raw deal with injuries. He had the neck injury, had his back, and he was never able to look right. In 2020, he was kind of able to put it together for a little bit and, looked solid, average like 19 points a game. But then last season, only plays 9 games, injured again. And it's like, is this guy ever going to get it right? And finally this year, he looked really solid. And through 61 games, I got the statistics right here. 62 games. He averaged, let's see if I can get the averages back because I lost it for a second. Oh yeah, 62 games. He averaged 17 and he averaged 17.4. He had like 6 rebounds, 1 assist. Like he's finally producing the numbers that we thought, he should be producing. And listen, he's only 24 years old. He's only going to get better. And it's just good to finally see him doing what he can do.
Yeah, I agree, and it's awesome that we're talking about him because I'm an avid MPJ fan. I love the potential out of him. I'd never thought he should have been drafted that low. I thought it was a great pick by Denver, perfect pick.
Yeah.
They're usually another team, along with the Heat, very great with their drafting, and it really pays off in the end because you get pieces. They drafted Bull a few years ago in the Nuggets, so I think, yeah, I mean. Oh, man, this is bad. I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
You're good, man. You're good.
Take it over.
Don't worry. Yeah, no, I saw that. I don't know if you saw this. There was like these are just memes going around, but I always like kind of reacting to this stuff. And I think someone said that if it's a Nuggets Heat final, they might have to put I think they said Adam Silver might have to put the finals on League Pass.
Yeah,
which I thought was funny.
I was on the way from a train from game 2. One of our nice drunk fans was just, hey, like heat wave, like who's gonna watch Heat Nuggets? Like, come on.
No, like, and that's the thing too, because, and it's weird because a couple of years ago, everyone was saying like, oh my God, there's no parity in the NBA. It's always Cavs Warriors. Like, there's no like, we always know what the outcome is going to be. And it's weird that now we have more parity in the NBA than ever. We're getting a finals matchup that a lot of people would not have expected this year, and people are complaining about it. So it's weird. It's weird how like the narrative with that shifts just within the course of a couple years.
Absolutely. And yeah, and back, I wanted to go back to with the Michael Porter Jr. thing.
Yeah.
I just remember my thought there. Yeah, I was in a couple arguments in some Celtics group chats about like where he ranks as a player in the NBA, and people were putting him outside the top 100 in that group chat, and I was like,
Really?
top outside the top 100 is pretty insane. I thought he's good enough, but they talk about his lack of passing, stuff like that. He made a lot of big assists in these series the last few games. He had 4 assists in one game, and his career high is 5, so it's not saying much.
I listen. I have been seeing the memes. I think they're saying like Michael like suddenly slinging the Rock Porter Jr.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I love the nicknames they're making for him. It's awesome.
and it's because he made one extra pass, and the commentator kind of was like, "Hey, nice extra pass."
Yeah.
So, but no, it's great to see him knock down shots. I mean, yeah, he was definitely back in the day that he was going to be that number 1 pick. It was
It
one of
was
those things.
it was a surefire thing. He was going to be the number 1 pick back in the day. Like
It was the same thing as like who's the big man with the knee, Harry Giles. Same thing in high school. That guy was the number 1 pick for like 3 years, and then just couldn't do it.
yeah, injuries just eventually piled up. It's good to see him finally looking right though, because
Absolutely.
that was a big issue for them for a long time. But yeah, that is something weird though that I mentioned with the fact that we have more parity in this league than ever, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
now people want to complain that we're not getting like these, we're not getting the finals matchups we expected. And listen, I would love for it to have been a Celtics Lakers finals. Like I think that's for me that would have been something awesome to see. I haven't seen it in 13 years at this point. Back when Kobe, rest in peace, was still going out there and performing against the C's. So listen, I would have loved to have seen it. I mean, that's what like NBA like historians and what old heads like love to see. They love to see those classic matchups. And nothing to the Heat or the Nuggets. They're great teams. The Nuggets have been around for a good period of time, and I know the Heat are in the grand scheme of the NBA a newer franchise, but they have their great histories too. So it's really interesting to still see how that works out. But I don't know. I know how the narrative changed as well when people were saying like, oh my God, it's LeBron versus Steph every year. And then this year people were begging to see LeBron face Steph Curry one last time because they don't know whether or not it's going to ever happen again in the playoffs. So, people's opinions can change really quickly.
Yeah, and I think one thing it does to do with the entire NBA as a whole, it definitely solidifies that play-in tournaments question. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole landscape of this playoff run has been shaped by the Heat losing that first play-in game. They were the clear number 7 seed. They were a few games ahead of the Hawks. The Hawks couldn't catch them, and they caught them off guard on one night, and it changed the entire landscape. And maybe the Bucks would still be in it at this point. Maybe the Celtics would have been on around 1. We don't know.
I mean, that was something that I had been really like. Everyone was saying like, "Oh, who do you want to face in the first round?" And
the
like,
Hawks,
the Heat or the Hawks. It was no question Atlanta. No question because I didn't think that the Heat could do to us what they did by going up 3-0. But I've said this about Miami from the get-go. I've said that there's one word to describe them, and it's pesky. They're a thorn in your side. They're always going to give you problems, and I knew that's what was going to happen. And I just didn't know that it was going to be to this level where they were just going to completely dominate you. But I would have thought that, they wouldn't let you finish this thing off in 4 or 5. They would, scrape and claw and make you earn it in 6 or 7. I didn't think that it would be us having to scrape and claw to earn it in 6 or 7, but, who knows?
Which made me even more worried about this current Celtics team when the Hawks took a 6.
Absolutely.
It concerned me very, very quickly. And then as if the conference finals, the conference semis wasn't the same thing, just, up and then just right back down and down 3-2 on the road. Like, it's just, I hate being in these situations, but like you said, the Celtics respond well to pressure. And hopefully there will be a finals that it seems more entertaining to at least us two.
Yeah, I would have more fun with the Celtics in the finals. Obviously,
Celtics Nuggets would be a fun finals. I think it would bring a lot more a lot of other people's attention, especially after a comeback like that. I think a team who walked in, a team who was ready to be out. It's underdog David versus Goliath. It's and either way, it's David versus Goliath actually.
Yeah.
But
So listen, I mean, yeah, I'll say this. if the Celtics were to complete that comeback and go in, I don't know, like you were saying that they could go in and just like get on it from the get go. I don't know if they would be too tired from that series or if they would just be able to say like, all right, we've been playing, we're in sync. Let's hit the ground running.
So like,
I
like the
I,
thing the
I
thing
think it would
I
be more the
noticed is like
former.
the time in between the series. If the Celtics had lost last night, regardless, both teams had a week and a half off, like a week and
Yeah.
2 days, something like that. The Nuggets have been sitting on the couch for 2 days already.
Yeah.
That means the Celtics would still have to win 3 more games, and that's a 6 day span. We're not starting until June 1st. I think like the Celtics being in rhythm, along with the Nuggets kind of just sitting on the couch for a while. It just like it could like the Celtics could come in and steal a few of the early games, maybe, and then
Sure.
that's when the Denver would probably tie it too, something like that.
Yeah.
But I do think if they do win this series, I think the beginning of that series, at least the Celtics will still be hot.
Yeah, sure. Now, Ryan, I got to ask you, depending on the way that this series goes, if it goes the way that a lot of people expect, which is that the Heat will finish this thing off eventually, whether it's in game 5, 6, or 7. The idea is probably that Miami will win this series. A lot of people
Absolutely.
are wondering, what is the future of this Celtics team going to look like? I know that Jaylen Brown's made a lot of comments in some tabloids about his future and may not feel as appreciated as Jason Tatum is here. So I got to ask you, what do you think that this Celtics team is going to look like in the future? Because in my opinion, I think that Jaylen Brown might be as good as gone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so tough to say, and I haven't really thought about it too much because I was so stuck up on this team being the one. I didn't think there was a chance that this was even a possibility that we didn't make the finals, and with the team that we have now is never been better. So it sucks that we have to break it up in a way. We're forced to do something after this. If they lose, unless they force a game 7, then you maybe think about like we were 1 game away again. But regardless, I don't think they'll fire Joe. I really don't. I think you got to let him. He was okay. He led us to the 2 seed. Just maybe needed that year under his belt. You can't expect everybody to be good on their first try. And then I think yeah, Jalen's probably as good as gone. I mean, I don't see a reason Tatum
I
gets moved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who we target. A lot of people. My friend commented that all the other teams left have better big men than us. He thinks Bam is better than I believe. I think the same thing. And then
I
Jokic, and then
agree.
it was AD too.
I'd
Then it
agree
was
with that.
AD.
Yeah.
So he said maybe Jaylen Brown for Cat and a few more pieces, something like that. Switch it up. Minnesota's kind of been in that middle realm. Um, but you never know. You really don't. But I do like the idea of finally getting a good big. I think like a
Because that
dominant big.
because that's what the Celtics, honestly, I don't think we've had a legitimate big man since KG.
Yeah, I mean, like
Jet,
Horford's
Jet,
All-Star season was okay, but like
but Horford's a glorified power forward. He's not a center. And
correct.
and even KG wasn't a center. We haven't had, in my opinion, a traditional center since Kendrick Perkins, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Because
and Kendrick
because
Perkins was just a villain.
Rob Will could play the 4. Yeah, like we haven't had a traditional center, in my opinion, on the Celtics team that has been a starter since Kendrick Perkins. I know we had Greg Monroe in 2018, but he was coming off the bench. Like,
Yeah, no.
like in terms of a traditional center, it's been about 10 years. So and I know Cat isn't a traditional center. He can shoot from distance and he can, really create plays on his own. So maybe we do go out and we get Karl Anthony Towns, and maybe that could work. I don't know necessarily how that would fare for this team. Maybe Jason Tatum wouldn't have to, swing the ball as much on the wing and he could just focus on taking more shots and that
Mhm.
could work out for us. But I don't know. I like the matchup that we have with Tatum and Brown, but right now something isn't working. And like you said, you made the comparison to the Toronto Raptors. They had to go out and they had to get Kawhi Leonard. What did they do in the next season? Immediately go out and win the championship.
It depends in both teams in all these scenarios. The same thing with their Valanciunas trade or one of the Valanciunas trades. Or I think like Valanciunas got swapped out. Yeah, for Marcus Gasol, and then
Yeah.
I think, and then like they ended up trading each other. Like same thing. And then Valanciunas was actually better for the Pelicans, and Steven Adams was better for the team that he went to, and all that. Pieces just have to fit in the right place. Like Marcus Gasol was much worse statistic wise, but he did what that team needed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, that's just like that's just the NBA for you, man.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. And you could think that you have the best piece, but sometimes it just takes a culture shift. So, I don't know what it's going to look like with the Celtics team moving forward. Hopefully, Ryan, we're hoping for a miracle right now. Maybe by the time I'm doing my next show, we can talk about the greatest comeback in NBA basketball history. But right now, it's looking kind of sketchy. So I hope that fingers are crossed, man. I'm hoping for the best.
Absolutely. I might be, making myself believe as well. But I
Yeah.
mean, hey, you're not out, so you're out. And I remember Paul Pierce said that the game, it's not over until the clock hits zero, and that zero still has some time on it.
Sure. So yeah, right. Before we do go, I want to do a one more segment, and this is completely absent of the playoffs of any player actually that's currently in the NBA. I want to talk about a star that is on his way right now to the league, Victor Wembanyama. If I'm saying the name correctly, I'm still trying to learn it. It's like Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's
Yeah, I think it's Wembanyama. Yama.
yeah, yeah. I'll figure it out again eventually.
Yeah,
Again, it's like Giannis. Eventually, it'll roll
absolutely.
up. It'll roll off your tongue. I'm just gonna call him Victor for now. So Victor's coming into the NBA, and there are people have insanely high expectations for him. He's 7'5". He can shoot from distance. He's incredibly talented, and people are saying right now, just like some of the predictions people have for him are absolutely ludicrous. I'm hearing some people say that if he's Kevin Durant or Hakeem Olajuwon in terms of legacy and talent, then his career is a failure. And that is absolutely ludicrous. And I feel so bad for this kid because he's already being set up for failure and he hasn't even set foot on an NBA court yet. And listen, San Antonio, you're getting another generational talent. I think that he is going to pan out. I don't think he's going to be a bust, but you got to at least see what he looks like on an NBA court. We thought that Chet Holmgren was going to be a stud, and LeBron James goes out there and snaps the kid's leg like a twig. So like we don't know for sure what it's going to look like until he steps out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, those comparisons are too much. I mean, I think anybody would take, a few rings and a couple MVPs.
Yeah.
I mean, like, come on.
Listen, if the guy's 7'5" Kevin Durant, he's a Hall of Famer. That's an amazing career. And
Mhm.
in my opinion, the Spurs got what they wanted out of that. Kevin Durant should have, he's won. I know he's won 2 championships on super loaded teams. If Kevin Durant gets surrounded and when in early in his career and is surrounded with like heavy talent, he would be more than just those 2 championships. So listen, it's not just going to be like what he pans out to. It's going to be what do you surround him with? That's because he can only lead a team so far.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
mean, does he have the potential to be a top 10 NBA player in history based on his attributes? Sure, but
sure.
attributes aren't everything. So
No.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think Wemby, yeah, he's got that potential. It's really scary what he's doing. Off the dribble, he's very good. He
Did
can
you see
shoot
that?
the.
Did you see that put back dunk he had on the 3-point shot?
Yeah, that was
That's
insane.
insane.
You take basically 2 steps and you're dunking. But like that and like just the way like he's hitting moving fading shots, like I just didn't understand how that like works. He's just so hard to release the ball. Is his size and there's just so much expectations because of that. But I mean, I think like you can't sit here and say that the realm would be over beyond Wembanyama. Like, how about we never thought about this? Like, what if somebody learns to shoot consistently with both hands? You never know what way they can go, right? Like,
Yeah,
they step back left, step back right. Like, I think the game will always evolve.
yeah.
I think the game will always continue to evolve. People will try new things, gain new things. There would be the next 8-footer. Who knows? Something like that.
Who
Maybe there's a
knows?
5'6" guy again. Who knows? But I think they need to take it easy on the kid a bit. I think he's got to. I don't think he might not be good right away with all these expectations. And I think
I mean,
yeah,
Richard Jefferson says he doesn't think that he's gonna live up to these expectations at least for the first 3 years. Like the kid's got to develop. Like he's.
I mean,
I mean,
look at Zion.
look at Giannis when he came in the league. Giannis was a
True.
stick. He had no mass to him at all,
Hmm.
and eventually he became a freak of nature. Like the muscle he's put on is ridiculous. But when he came in the league, he was tiny. So like, I mean, the kid's got to get in, put the work in first.
Yeah, like and it's like look at Zion. Like Zion was being compared to LeBron, anything you could think of. And yeah, he's been good, but they haven't been successful, and he's been injured.
Yeah.
It can happen to anybody.
Mhm.
So I mean, especially nobody thought Zion was ever going to get injured because he was such a just a big body, and nobody
Yeah.
ever he thought he'd just go through everybody. But no, like everybody has their weaknesses. Everybody can get injured at any time, and I just think it's unfair to one write off his career if he gets injured. Same thing with Chef Holgram. I think that's crazy. Like, yeah, like the chances. What are the chances he got injured right before his rookie season? It's
Yeah.
low, but it just happened.
Yeah.
Like look at Joel Embiid was out for the first 2 years, and now he's an MVP.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So people are going to give, especially big men, time. Big men take time to adjust, but once they're acclimated, they're really good. So
Yeah. I mean, I know I saw Gilbert Arenas say on his show, like, Victor would be better off just staying in France, which he said in a lighthearted tone. He didn't actually mean it, but it's just the fact that some of these expectations, man, are so outrageous. Like, give the kid a break. Let him at least prove himself first before, like, you start, throwing down all this hate. Cause, like, if you build him up too much, like, people are building this guy up to be the next Superman. Like, not even LeBron, not even Michael Jordan. They're like trying to have him like usurp all of that. And
yeah,
at that point, you're just setting yourself up to be disappointed.
you're right.
So,
And like look at Taco Fall, right? A
yeah,
little bit taller. A guy that size, he's going to get an opportunity regardless. They're going to work on him like a project regardless. And he's miles ahead skill wise of him already. I don't
yeah,
see how he's not at least on a team for 5 or 6 years, even with injuries. Like he could tear everything in his body, and he'd still probably people would take chances on him until he's 28 years old.
yeah,
So he's got a long way ahead of him. I think the media is just really, really killing it.
yeah,
Killing it with him.
yeah. I mean, I got to agree with you, man. So hopefully the media kind of cools back on him, which I doubt, but it's going to be an interesting road for him and for these teams as we get into the stretch of the NBA playoffs and NBA finals. But Ryan, I think it's about that time. I think we are now down to the wire. So
Mm.
we're going to go through quickly what we went over in this episode and send you guys on your way. So first of all, I just want to say thanks again to Ryan Steiner, the creator and, mind behind the Celtics Everything Instagram page. Ryan, really do appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. It's great to always talk with you every once in a while and catch up and all that. And you got a great setup here, and it's very smooth, efficient. You're doing a great job with what you got.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. So,
Of course.
before I shout out my stuff, do you want to kind of like talk about where people can follow you?
Yeah, I mean, so just the Instagram is really the main source. It's at Celtics Everything. My personal is in my bio. If you guys are more interested in me, I don't know why you would be, but no, but yeah, I mean, we're going to be posting often these next couple games, and especially after the season, I love to do my season wrap up stuff. So, theories on trade ideas. If you like some of the things you heard today, I'm going to have a bunch ready for the summer. New templates coming out. I'm working with an editor now, which is phenomenal. He's doing a phenomenal job, and I'm really happy with how it's coming out. So I think the best is yet to come for the page. So hopefully everyone would love to join me on there.
Absolutely, man. All right. And if you guys are interested in following down to the wire, I mean, I don't know if, you've come across this podcast for the first time, but if you have, you can follow us on Instagram at down.to-the-wire. And we have a link in our bio to our Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the streaming platform pages, as well as our YouTube, TikTok, all that good stuff. So make sure you go give us a follow over at down.to-the-wire on Instagram. Today we were able to talk about the NBA and the Celtics avoiding a sweep against the Miami Heat with a victory in Game 4. Talked about LeBron James considering retirement after being swept by the Nuggets. We previewed the Nuggets as they get ready for the NBA Finals, which are set to begin on June 1st. Can't wait for that. And finally, we wrapped things up by talking about some of the ludicrous expectations for Victor Wembanyama and what's going to come with that. So really do appreciate you guys for tuning into the show. And finally, from Down the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
And I'm Celtics Everything, Ryan Steiner.
There we go. And we hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care. Peace out.
Peace out.